I think the issue is that too many people have come into this market with the expectations of becoming wealthy. That's not what you own it for. Now, silver offers that kind of potential, but you own it because the system that has been going on for 50 plus years, this fiat system is coming to an end. And silver, from when I think of silver, Ivan, I think of the word asymmetrical. I think it's the most undervalued asset on the planet. And asymmetrical means low downside, high upside. It's an unusual situation. And I think that really is the case. Part of what I think is giving away the real potential for silver is the massive, massive deliveries that we've seen month over month over month on COMEX. In fact, we saw the largest delivery in the history of the COMEX in silver in May. And it's a game where you have currently the second largest concentrated short position in history by the commercial banks right now. To give you an idea of how they do that, on Wednesday of last week, they traded 487 million paper ounces just to keep the price at or around $36 an ounce. And it popped back up on Friday. They traded 356 million paper ounces to hold the price below 37. So the total short position in silver right now is somewhere about 957 million ounces. How much of it is it a naked short? I don't know. Chris Marcus had a great article the other day. He said, look, when these banks on COMEX are short, they're supposed to be long the corresponding amount in London to balance their balance sheet. But the thing is, he said, if that really is the case, when looking at what they call the free float in London, the amount of silver backing the contracts, he surmised they would only have 7 million ounces. That's it in London backing the whole system. And if they are not hedged, as they should be, why then you have some massively dangerous positions by some of the largest banks in the world, which represent an existential threat to the system. So when I look at silver, aside from the fact that we saw its highest weekly close in 14 years, only the third time in history it's been that high, you can see there's a concerted effort by the banks, a real concerted effort to keep it from rising. They failed in gold. I believe they'll fail in silver as well. I mean, look, I get it. The thing that's concerning to me regarding the crypto community, I've done this for 35 years, and I guess unless the rules are completely being rewritten, well, maybe they are. My mentor, Richard Russell, used to say that if you make 7% a year return, that you will go down in the investing Hall of Fame as a rock star. And what has happened with the gambling mentality from, Texas Hold'em to all the way up to the gambling, what is in the equity markets and in the crypto markets, it's created I believe, a whole generation of investors who have irrational expectations. And, they've been right to a degree. Fortunes have been made in cryptocurrencies. Will it continue to be? I don't know. When you look at what the largest banks in the world are doing, the largest central banks, they're accumulating gold and silver. And if it weren't so important, I guess really the interesting thing is that if it wasn't so important, for whatever reason, why do we have 8 of the Western banks that have held the largest concentrated short position in any commodity ever traded on COMEX? Why are they trying so hard to keep it down? And where would it be if we didn't have this level of suppression and manipulation day after day in order to keep it down? Before it's all said and done, I think that silver will outpace and maybe even bring those type of crypto type returns. But the difference is you hold it in your hand. And it's an asset that has outlived 2 world wars and German hyperinflation and the Great Depression and every pandemic, just like gold. And it's viewed by some of the most sophisticated and well-informed traders and players on the planet right now as being vital, as being strategic, not just industrial. So yes, it's been a very frustrating, counterintuitive ride for a lot of these people, especially the ones who came on when you guys came on right around 2021. I think the issue is that too many people have come into this market with the expectations of becoming wealthy. That's not what you own it for. Now, silver offers that kind of potential, but you own it because the system that has been going on for 50 plus years, this fiat system, is coming to an end. And there might be some cryptos like Bitcoin that actually endure. But then again, silver is 5,000 years old. You mentioned three, 400 times in the Bible, and Bitcoin's barely a teenager. That doesn't really mean anything other than to say silver has lasted the test of time. And if it
Right.
weren't being held back by some of the most sophisticated Western banks in the world, who I believe are being exposed right now, being exposed by massive deliveries going across the globe, being exposed by a country like China, who is the second largest producer in the world, Ivan, and is flying all around Latin America, in particular Peru, buying up all the doré and the concentrate directly from the miners. Doré are bars that are crudely refined, and concentrate is a byproduct of that, paying double what the West will and shipping it back to China for refining. Why would they do that as the second largest producer in the world?
Yeah.
Why are we seeing Russia say we're going to add it to our strategic stockpile? Why is India importing almost 900 million ounces in the last 5 years? And why are we seeing the biggest deliveries in the history of the COMEX market happening right now over the last 5, 6 months and accelerating? So I think there's a lot to be said for silver, and I think there's a lot yet to be written in these final chapters. We're a long ways away from the end game, but look, bottom line is simply this: silver's underperformed. Silver has been frustrating, but silver is vitally important to some of the biggest players in the world. You wouldn't see 8 commercial banks holding the price down to this degree, to the point of it being an existential threat to their survival, if they're overrun by the deliveries across the globe. Well, I think it's the military industrial complex that's done it. And silverwars.org has done a decent job of showing the amount of silver that is used in high-tech weaponry. I did 3 years ago, I did a speech at Vancouver Resource Investment Conference where I said there's 500 ounces in a typical cruise missile. And
Right.
I'm walking off the stage and people come up to me and this guy says, I work for the Department of Defense. I'm like, oh shit. And he says, but I developed the Tomahawk. He says, I know there's silver in it. I don't know how much. I'll get back to you. Never hear from him again. 2 years ago, I go and I do another speech. There he is with some pictures in hand. He says, these are declassified. I can show you. You're right. There's about 13 to 14 kilograms in the tip of a typical cruise missile. And we went into a long conversation. I've talked to him many times since about the amount of silver that is used in high-tech weaponry, aerospace, and high-tech missiles. And it's pervasive. Now, they used to show the amount of silver in the supply-demand numbers for a very long time. They showed the military application in it. And so when you realize that the military-industrial complex, let's just call them BlackRock, who is the primary custodian along with JP Morgan for the world's largest silver trust in SLV, not to mention primary also now in GLD, along with JP Morgan. So you have this company who's massively involved in the silver industry with PHYS and SLV, or excuse me, PSLV and SLV and others. And they're the ones who are stepping on the price of silver to keep it cheap so that they can build high-tech weapons, great
Wow.
weapons, and sell them all around the world to countries like the Ukraine. The Ukraine gets blown up, and then the military-industrial complex comes in because they already own all the weapons manufacturers. Who do you think gets the reconstruction contracts? Oh, that's right, it's BlackRock. So BlackRock comes in, sells weapons all around the world, keeps the price down, enriching the military-industrial complex, and then they get the reconstruction contracts to rebuild. This is a game that has been going on for a very long time, and if you go back and look at, I think it's in 1942, I don't know if I can give you the number. I think I can. The name of the bill was S.2768.
Okay.
S.2768, and it says this is in 1942. It's a subcommittee on banking and currency, and it's a bill to authorize the use for war purposes of silver held or owned by the United States. I'll read the first paragraph. The present consumption of silver for war purposes is at the rate of about 100 million ounces per year and is growing rapidly. According to the War Production Board, it's only a matter of months before war demands will increase sufficiently to require at least 200 million ounces a year. Well, this is in 1942. What do you think it's like now with the high-tech weapons? So the question is, why would we have 8 banks that hold the largest concentrated short position on COMEX of any commodity traded in silver? It is because the military-industrial complex needs it to wage war and then to get the reconstruction contracts. In
Wow.
essence, to me, that is why they've been holding it down. And in an environment where no one stands for delivery, that wins. But the countries that are now doing it were not where they are now. Now they are coordinated, sophisticated, motivated, wealthy. These are the countries of the BRICS. the BRICS nations, China and Saudi Arabia and Russia and India, they're all gobbling up silver because they understand the long-term implications of an asset that is depleting in nature. And it is needed for the West to wage war and to create high-tech weapons. And that, in my mind, is why you've had the coordination of these Western banks who have ruled the roost through military supremacy and the ability to control the markets for a very long time. And silver and gold are the canary in the mine shaft. And they've done a good job at suppressing it.